Welcome to International Paleo Kitchen, where novelty meets nutrition. Today we're going to be making a quick chicken tikka masala from India. Here are the carbs in the dish. We have about one yellow onion diced, one poblano pepper diced, and I just choose poblano because it's economical and has plenty of nutrients. Half a cup of mushroom, and there's about half of a habanero pepper that's minced. You can choose any kind of pepper. It really just depends on your level of heat tolerance. I would start with jalapeno and then work your way up. The hotter your pepper, the finer the dice. And also be careful about the number of seeds you add because that's where the real heat is. Next to that we have the dry seasoning, what I call the dry seasoning, or like the spice mix, and that's 4 teaspoons of cumin, 1 teaspoon of cayenne, but also cayenne's to taste. We also have 2 teaspoons of pepper and 2 teaspoons of paprika. And then we have the wet seasoning, what I call the wet seasoning. This is 2 cloves of garlic and about 2 teaspoons of ginger. It depends on how you have your ginger. This is the ginger I recommend. This makes using ginger way easier. If you have to use just regular ginger, just mince it. Use about the same amount, 1 to 2 teaspoons. It really depends on your taste for ginger. And also lemon juice. Now, lemon juice is, I never really give amounts on lemon juice. Lemon juice is something that's to taste. It represents the acidic element in the dish. If your food tastes flat or just doesn't really have a pop, then you're probably missing acid. So acids like lemon juice, lime juice, vinegar and wine are usually things you want to do to your taste. So you can kind of estimate 1 tablespoon, but you really don't want to estimate. You want to use your taste for it. Also, you want a half a pint of cream, or whipping cream if you can't get just heavy cream, and 1 can of tomato sauce. And be careful when you're using creams. You want to avoid really high saturated fat meals to probably about 2 a week, but also remember that monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat help your cholesterol or pretty much boost your good cholesterol. So just make sure you're balancing your saturated fat with monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fat. And also, of course, you have the protein in the dish, which is 2 to 3 chicken breasts that are cut into bite-sized pieces and dredged in salt and pepper. And that's all for the ingredient list. Alright, this is the part of the show where anything can happen. So if I have bad kittens running around and making noise, there are no retakes. So, we're going to coat a pan in oil. I prefer peanut oil, high in monounsaturated fat. It's got an earthiness that goes well with the dish. So first we're just going to add our carbs. Now this is really for speed. If this was completely traditional, I would add the dry seasoning first to toast it, which is an Indian cooking technique, which we are going to do. But we're just going to get these softened up a little bit in here. We're going to go ahead and add the dry seasoning. Toasting the aromatics is an Indian cooking technique that releases more flavor out of your dry seasoning. Just going to get this stirred up, and you'll really be able to tell that the aromatics are working when you can smell it much more intensely. So just going to get this nice and coated. This will also help to have your carbs much more flavorful. The spices are all stuck to them and working, instead of just getting lost in the sauce. Alright, so now that you have that, we're going to add our wet seasoning right here. And we're just going to combine it really quick. This wet seasoning is a little less wet than other wet seasonings. It all happens in stages. Now, if you are unused to this technique, you may cough a little bit. Lemon juice to taste there, which we'll be using lemon juice again later. Alright, now we're going to add the chicken. There are cutting boards that make that much easier, which I have not acquired yet. but I plan to. So we're going to pretty much heat this until the outside is turned white, not until it's cooked, just until the outside's turned white. We want to get the protein mixed up with all the good spices and the carbs. So this step takes a few minutes, so we'll just fast forward. Alright, and now that the chicken has whitened, we're going to add the sauce. So it's heavy cream, the whole half pint, and a can of tomato sauce. And I don't care if I'm clean or not, because it's good. You need to get a little messy in the kitchen. Okay, so you just want to combine this. Now the most important thing here, the absolute most important thing, is do not let the cream boil. If you let the cream boil, it separates and it really ruins the dish. So you're just going to want to stir it until it's well mixed. It'll have a nice color. And you have a couple of options here. You can tend to it. You know, what I prefer to do is let it heat once you combine it. And you can do that quicker by covering it. So we're just going to combine it well. And then we're going to cover it. And after that, the only step, and it's, in my opinion, the most important step, is balancing. So we're just going to cover it here and let it cook through. And these don't match, but I don't care. I should probably also add we were using high heat the whole time, but once you cover it, you want to reduce the heat to a simmer. Depending on your stove, that could be many different things. Alright, and the next step is just to check and make sure the chicken is cooked through. So just fish a piece out here. Cut into it, make sure it's white all the way through. Okay, now, this is the most important step. This is where you separate the men from the boys in the kitchen. Or the ladies from the girls. There's nothing wrong with that phrase. But, so here you go. So, the important thing here is balancing. If your dish is a little boring, you may want to add some sugar or some pepper. If your dish tastes flat, you need to add a little bit more acid. If it tastes bland, what you need is salt. This dish, for me, as I've tested it, is a little on the bland side, so we're going to add a little bit of salt. And this process can go back and forth until you get it just right. Usually what I recommend is getting a dish as spicy as your palate will take it. Anything that's hot is very good for you. The healing properties of peppers are numerous, so that's what I recommend. But if you don't like hot, you're just not going to like this dish. And after you balance the dish, it's ready to serve. Now, obviously this dish is going to be a lot more delicious with rice or quinoa, but as this is a paleo show, we're not going to use it, and it's actually pretty good on its own anyway. You kind of eat it just like a soup or a stew, and it's just fine like that. Give it a try. Thanks for watching, guys.